All right, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, the Scholar Baller, and I'm here back with a new episode of the It's a Raptors Ting podcast. Trying to be more consistent this year, and I'm looking to get it going. So, with that in mind, we are at a critical juncture in the season. We're just fresh off of Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes being named to the both versions of the USA All-Star team. You know, they did that whole All-Star format this year. It was pretty interesting. You know, you had different dynamics. You had the older version of Team USA with the older players, and then the younger version of Team USA with the younger players for the American All-Stars. And then you also had that international flavor with Team World. I thought the All-Star game was better. There definitely was more effort put on the part of the players. And ultimately, I think the NBA has at least done some, what I would refer to as patchwork with establishing, somewhat of a clear-cut baseline around, okay, this is the baseline, bare minimum type of effort that we expect to see in the All-Star game. And I feel like they've uniquely cultivated and collected the circumstances within the All-Star game to best facilitate the outcome around the effort portion. And you could definitely see it there. Now, was it the best All-Star game that I've ever seen? Absolutely not. Part of the problem with manufacturing effort is, well, it's manufactured effort, right? So, and that part could definitely be seen throughout the All-Star game. People just doing just enough just to get by, that kind of thing. But hey, it's an All-Star game. It's better than what we've gotten for like the last 5 years or 6 years, so I'll take it. 3-point contest was all right. Damian Lillard, he was wobbling, but he won, right? So, it's Dame time every day, even if he's not quite, on the court for this season due to injury. It's still Dame time when it's a 3-point contest time. So Damian Lillard won that. And then, the skills competition, that was what it was. When it comes to the dunk off, I'm not even sure if we should call it a dunk off or a TikTok dance off. I don't even know what that was. I never thought I would have to be a part of any abolitionist movement in the modern era. But yeah, at this point, I'm for abolishing the NBA slam dunk competition. It's just, we got to pull the plug on that. Like, it's just bad. Not gonna waste your time or my time elaborating on it. If you want, you can YouTube the clips or TikTok the clips or Instagram Reel the clips, wherever you get your highlights from, or lowlights, because I'd barely call those dunks highlights. And I just feel as though it's like somebody can just win the dunk off for what seems like the wrong reasons, and I'll just leave it at that. Like, again, not gonna elaborate on it. So All-Star Weekend was what it was. The Raptors were well represented. Glorilla go. Glorilla glow up. Sorry, like, it's like a tongue twister for me. So the Glorilla glow up was ever present in the celebrity game. We had a few Raptors in the Rising Stars game. If please correct me on this one if I'm misremembering, but I believe it was Elijah Martin and Colin Murray Boyles for the that Rising Stars game. And then of course, creme de la creme, Scotty Barnes and BI in the All-Star game. So yeah, the Raptors were well represented. And yeah, it just seemed like the chips kind of fell where they were supposed to go. Scotty Barnes is definitely the best player on this team without a doubt. But, I definitely felt as though Brandon Ingram deserved an all-star selection. And, yeah, I'm not going to lie. Like, I was a little disappointed that he didn't get it initially. But I just kind of felt like, the chips fell where they were supposed to fall in this instance. And he ended up getting it on the back end. So, hey, can't really complain too much. Reppin' we the North. I'm pretty sure that's still the mantra or the slogan for Raptors basketball. Granted, it's from it's kind of inherited from a prior era, but nonetheless, I'm still rocking with it until this new era, gets out of its genesis and starts to kind of solidify itself a little bit more and create more of a an identity that's separate from the predecessors. So yeah, right now this era of Raptors basketball, if you want to refer to it as that, is definitely in its primordial era, and as such it should still have, using that moniker of we the North is still very relevant in my eyes. So I'm keeping it for now, and I think most of y'all are probably going to do the same. Whew. That being said, I am very happy that the first half of the season is done. And I'm really just excited now for the second half of the season. It's customary for, NBA basketball to really start picking up speed. The Super Bowl has already happened and all that stuff. So the NBA really gets those Sunday time slots, those Sunday afternoon games. Speaking of yesterday, as of the recording of this video, yesterday, the Raptors just, beat the bricks off the Milwaukee Bucks. That was quite the game. I wasn't able to catch all of it. I had dad duties and parental duties. So, I don't want to go off too far off topic, but, I like to do a little slice of life stuff here. So, it's one of those ones where, you put your daughter to sleep. I got a 1.5-year-old daughter, right? So I just put her to sleep, and she sleeps for a bit. And while she's sleeping, one of the things you can do, you can watch the game. So I was able to catch the first half of the game, and then my daughter woke up and she's like, it's time to go back to dad duties. So didn't catch the second half of the game, but I will give my analysis on the first half. Again, obviously I know the outcome and everything because the game happened yesterday, but I'll just give my analysis a little bit on the first half because I feel like just even talking about the first half, it'll really, kind of get to the point of where I wanted to go with this. But with that in mind, the first half, like the first quarter in particular, I thought was quite wild because I felt as though the Raptors were playing down to their competition. That being said, I think Milwaukee deserves somewhat of an honorable mention in the sense that I think Milwaukee will end up making the playoffs via the play-in. And I think there'll be a little bit of a sleight of hand first round matchup for, whether they're facing, one of the top seeds, whether it's Detroit or New York or whoever else is ahead and has like a realistic chance of getting a top 2 seed. I know I'm missing a team off the top of my dome, but it is what it is. The point is, I think Milwaukee will be a sleight of hand type of matchup, and don't be surprised, with a healthy Giannis and some time to synchronize with the prolific scoring of a Cam Thomas. Don't be surprised if the Milwaukee Bucks, maybe upset a Detroit Pistons team. I mean, they're good, but they're young, right? So, But nonetheless, going back to the Raptors situation, yeah, the Raptors definitely were struggling a little bit in that first quarter. And Milwaukee, you know, to give some degree of credit, you could tell that they had the game plan of playing the zone defense against the Raptors. And for a little while it worked. But, you know, I think one of the messages that the league needs to start to understand about the Raptors is the Raptors have a certain degree of malleability and a certain degree of adaptability. The only area that I would say that doesn't really apply is maybe with 3-point shooting. But nonetheless, this idea that you can just come in, you know, with Milwaukee and be like, okay, we're going to play a zone the entire game, and then that's how we're going to win the game. That's not going to cut it anymore, you know. I think Coach Rajakovic is really at a point where he has a strong enough rapport with the players, a strong enough rapport with management, and is very much so willing to make the appropriate adjustments in order to influence the outcome of the Raptors winning any game or having the best probability of winning any game. So this idea that you can just come with one particular strategy, you know, zone all game, it's not going to cut it. And, you know, Brandon Ingram understood the assignment early on because he was shooting middies from the get-go. He started off, you know, a little bit cold, but once he started to heat up, he did his thing. And I know what you all are thinking. For those of you who've been following me for a minute, the past month in January, I really lit into Emmanuel Quickley. But I'm not gonna lie, yo, Emmanuel Quickley, he's the man's stepped up still. You know, he stepped up his game. Like, again, am I a wholehearted converted believer in Emmanuel Quickley? No, but I gotta be honest, man. The man stepped up his game. He did his thing. When you really think about it, you know, he just took on the scoring load and scored with the effectiveness that we need from him if he's going to embody the archetype of the score first point guard. So he did he really understood his assignment. And the tricky thing is about Emmanuel Quickley, and this is something that's kind of I would say is fairly complimentary, is that he can be a streaky shooter at times, but you know, when Emmanuel Quickley is in a situation where he understands the assignment, like he's gonna use his mid-range floater and his mid-range jumper and all of those things to help us beat a zone, and then furthermore he starts to catch fire and go on a solid shooting streak. Hey, you know, you're gonna see those high octane scoring outbursts, and that's a lot of what I saw in the game against Milwaukee. So it's pretty good. Nonetheless, I remember, just gonna change topics a little bit here. You know, I remember the last video I said I would speak to the Raptors bench a little bit more. So I'm gonna talk about them. I'm gonna start with Colin Murray-Boyles. Again, Colin Murray-Boyles has proven me wrong from time, okay? Like, I really mean that. Like, I was so iffy about him as a draft pick. I wanted Kaman Maluwach. Like, I was wondering what the heck is going on. And then all of a sudden, Masai Ujiri is about to get fired and all of this other stuff. And then he ends up getting fired. It was a whole mess. I was not happy. I was not a happy camper. And then also that whole scandal about, you know, whether or not he was like mouthing off about coming to Toronto. And, you know, as a Raptors fan, like, you know, slightly triggered because we know the stigma that comes with like coming across the border north and, like, you know, being Canadian. and all those things. Like it's just heavily stigmatized to play in Toronto. Still to this very day, it hasn't truly died off. Like it's still there in so many ways. Even how like Vegas and all the other American media outlets were not showing the mandem for the Raptors. They were not showing us no type of ratings, nothing. They weren't giving us nothing, bro. They were saying this was like a disconjointed mess, basically. But yeah, all that, I don't want to be too tangential. I'm trying to keep myself on good habits and good terms, right? So going back to Colin Murray Boyles, man, like he has been everything and then some. He's been the best rookie that the Raptors have had since Scotty Barnes. I mean, I don't think I think that's unequivocally, like, that can't be debated at this point. He's the best rookie that the Raptors have had since Scotty Barnes, bar none. At this given point in time, like, yeah, he is. Like Grady Dick, it only seems like his shot has just gotten worse since he's left college. I don't know. Like it might be time to come up off of Grady Dick somehow. And oh my God, what an odd selection of words there. But but yeah, it might be time to again, no pun intended or nothing like that. Just how the words came through. But it might be time to like trade him. But that's a whole nother topic. Again, sticking with Colin Murray Boyles, he's really been doing his thing. And just when Scotty went out, like, Colin Murray Boyles is a sufficient and reliable approximation of Scotty Barnes, in the sense that when we need somebody to do the things from a power forward standpoint that Scotty Barnes does for us, like, Murray Boyles is right there. He's right there putting in the defensive effort. He's right there as a Swiss Army knife with the switch ability. He's doing all of the things that he needs to do in order to be a solid guy, So I gotta rate him, man. Like he's been doing his thing. The only real difference though that I could really see as like very pronounced, Colin Murray Boyles does not have the same distribution, like assist type ability that Scotty Barnes has. So, unfortunately we don't have that there, but nonetheless, like he's been doing some good work, so shout out to Colin Murray Boyles. I also wanted to talk a little bit about Jacoby Walter. Jacoby Walter, I've been feeling a little bit better about him. But I still think he needs to figure out a way to put it all together. You're a lanky guy who can alternate between being like a guard and a forward, and like, you can cover so much ground defensively, but like, yo, man, like you gotta get into the weight room. You gotta start getting stronger, man. Like, because those skinny arms are not gonna cut it in the league, fam. Like if you're in the league, like you gotta be like these to a certain degree, The only exception is like Kevin Durant, because that man's bench press has not increased, I right. So he's but he's a different kind of beast. But generally speaking, like you can't just be like a wiry guy forever, man. Like you gotta get stronger so that you can depend more on the additional facets of your game. Like, you have this uncanny ability to get to the hoop, but you're not able to finish strong, and you're not able to take up the crucial space that you need to take up in order to get to the basket on balance to your favor, because the strength just isn't there. So you got to get stronger. Like they got to work with him to get him stronger. You know, his shot is kind of there at times, but you know, relying on being this sort of like shooting finesse skinny archetype, like it's not gonna, you know, if you want a longer career, you got to get stronger, right? So that's, you know, that's the verdict on Jacoby Walter right there. And the biggest snub from the Rising Stars weekend, Jamal Shed definitely deserved to have made it to the Rising Stars Challenge. But you know, the politics of All-Star Weekend, those politics, they are what they are at the end of the day. So, you know, they, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, does Mac McClung really deserve to be on the Rising Stars, in the Rising Stars game over Jamal Shed? Like if we're really looking at playing basketball on a professional level, okay? Like Mac McClung went to Georgetown, didn't do nothing, bro. Man, again, like, yeah, he has high school highlights. I remember, I grew up in the mixtape era, so I remember, like, you know, he could dunk a basketball. And not trying to, like, nothing against him, but come on, man. 5-on-5, like, you know, show some integrity. Like, put the players on the court who deserve to be on the court. And yo, Jamal Shed, like, arguably, right, and I'm still a huge believer of this, but I believe that the Houston Cougars could have won a title, right? I believe they were in, when Jamal Shed was there, they were like in the, either there was the Elite Eight or the Final Four. This was only like a couple of years ago, mind you, but you know, once Jamal Shed went down, I remember I watched the game where he went down, and I was like, that might be it for Houston, you know? Like, and either, I can't remember if it was the exact same game or if it was a game later, but they, you know, that's their floor general, right? But that's college stuff, right? But even just on an NBA level, he's somebody who has continued to improve. Okay, year one as a rookie, the jumper wasn't there. Now the jumper is there, right? Defense, he's only gotten better, right? The grit, the grind, the discipline, the determination, the balance, the core tenets, the low center of gravity, all of those things were already, you know, characteristics that Jamal Shed has fostered and that he possesses. And it's just a matter of his NBA IQ has only increased since he's gotten in the league. So how is he being snubbed? Well, it's just because of arguably entertainment value, right? Like, you know, if I guess the theory behind it is, you know, if we're playing the Rising Stars game and if Mac McClung, you know, gets a steal and it's a breakaway, you know, he might be able to produce a more viral moment. So, yeah, the NBA's pivot for social media validation is, it's abysmal. I'm not gonna lie, you know, not to get too far off topic, but when Adam Silver said that nonsense about like, well, our social media views are up, it's like, okay, buddy, like, sound real Canadian right now, but it's like, yeah, like, okay, buddy, like, yeah, your social media views are up, but like, the product is trash, you know? So it's like, you gotta like reward high IQ people and people who actually like play this game on an elite level. You gotta give them that shine, man. You gotta be at the forefront of resetting the paradigm instead of trying to appeal to low attention span social media culture. Like what is that? Like, you know, like, come on, man. Like, you can't, like, like, if you're the commissioner, like, you know, you gotta boss up a little bit, man. You gotta like see the forest for the trees and understand that, you know, yeah, you're competing for entertainment value, but, you know, the bar is what the bar is, and you've got to set the bar. You got to cultivate a new generation of fans that really respect the details of the game and not just this highlight celebrity, blah, 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 like all that nonsense. It's ruining the game, man. That's why you're getting people like Zion Williamson, and you're getting people like Ben Simmons and all them other types of people into your league, because you're getting people who are simply seeing basketball as a modality for like whatever other pursuits. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna repeat it on this channel, but whatever other pursuits, they're just using basketball for that, and it's desecrating the game, man. Like you can't be a respectable hooper and doing all those things, or just you have this talent and you just trivialize it, right? Like, okay, Nikola Jokic, right? He trivializes his talent to a degree, right? But it's still respectable, right? It's still respectable because he comes in, he puts in work, he does his skill set, he wins his championships. So there's still some degree of respect, right? Even though he trivializes being a champion because, he prioritizes the simple life. But you could even argue that there's a little bit of a moral victory with the Nikola Jokic situation. So you have that. But then on the other hand, it's like you have the Zion Williamson, the Ben Simmons, like it's people who are just like so like, it's not what's happening on the court. It's just about how flashy and how lavish and whatever other nonsense you're getting involved in off the court. Like that's what it's about. And it's just like, bro, like I'm tired of those players in the league, bro. Tired of that. Like it's nonsense, right? But one of the I know this is getting a little off Raptors topic, but I will just say, like, one of the things that I think is pretty exciting right now is when looking at like the current college landscape, because March Madness is just around the corner especially for like men's basketball, right? It's like, like Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, Carlos Boozer's, this like Cam Boozer, like, cause he has two sons, like they're twins, but Cam Boozer is the one that's rated a lot higher, right? But basically, like when you look at the top three guys who are projected to come into the league out the NCAA right now, like you could tell, or you could almost deduce that the Mamba mentality kind of skipped a generation. And what I mean by that is like a lot of those guys who grew up idolizing the 2010 stars, like again, going back to like the Zion Williamsons, the Ben Simmons, and just whoever else was like a flame out due to like social media stuff, right? I can't think of all the names right now, but you if you know them. It's like you can kind of deduce that them people, they grew up idolizing, like LeBron and Durant. And, again, LeBron and Durant, all-time greats for sure. But I think what ended up happening is like, they kind of took the wrong lessons, like they wanted like the power and the influence before putting in the work, right? Whereas I think ultimately, with the young guys who are coming in, they just, when I think about the comparisons in my mind, like I feel like they took on the work ethic of like the late great Kobe Bryant, right? So like I'm not talking about necessarily like the more conceited versions of Kobe, but I'm talking about like the Kobe was looking more to be like a mentor, and the Kobe was looking more to like accentuate the details of basketball and things like that. Like I feel like this new crop, there's a little bit of potential here. So my message to Commissioner Silver is don't mess it up, bro. Like, don't mess it up. Like, stop trying to appeal so much to social media culture and all that That's not what the institution of the NBA was built off of, right? So you gotta have a bit of a renaissance here. You gotta have a return to form, But yeah, and but yeah, going back to the Raptors now, I'm just gonna say this, going back to this idea of being at a critical juncture in the season, yeah, like I'm ready. I'm ready to see what happens next. I'm ready to see what it is that the Raptors are gonna do. I'm hoping that the like health is wealth, man. Health is wealth. Health is wealth. I can't express that enough. Health is wealth. For the first time in like forever, right? Since we acquired Brandon Ingram, like approximately a year ago, the Raptors starters are actually projected to have a time of developing together and playing NBA regulation minutes together, right? And of course, you know, quickly seems to have found his footing. Barrett, sorry, not Barrett. I'll get to him in a moment. Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram have been carrying the ship. Pirtle is coming back from injury, and Barrett is coming back from injury. So just wish them well, because if our starting five can find synchronicity, we might be able to go on an unexpected run, right? Synchronicity is the word of the day. Because the one thing that the Raptors have not been able to have with their starting lineup is synchronicity. Because in order for you to have synchronicity, the proponents that you're trying to synchronize together need to have time to work together, right? And it just hasn't happened like that. But now, for the first time, there's actually potential for that to happen. So that's a huge deal, bro. That's a huge deal. Like, I know the Raptors didn't get to, make the big move during the trade deadline, but I'm gonna be honest with you, yo. I'm not even gonna hold you. Still, the Raptors not getting Anthony Davis, hey, that's one less trip to the ER. Not trying to be mean, but street clothes Davis, like, that's one less trip to the ER. So the Raptors didn't get Anthony Davis. I can live with that, ultimately, right? Davis, Pirtle, like, if we got Davis, we would have him on the roster, but hey, he's not playing right now for his squad. Like, I think he's on Atlanta now. He's not even playing right now. And Pirtle, despite the injury problems, like, right now, he's back on the floor. So, yeah, not getting Anthony Davis, again, we cut costs on the ambulance, yo. It is what it is. Ja Morant, not getting Ja Morant, I'm not gonna lie, yo, with the way, hey, if Emmanuel quickly can figure it out, hey, we dodged a bullet not getting Ja Morant. And again, I'm not even trying to be funny with that. I'm just saying, like, hey, he can stay down there in Memphis, Tennessee, and they could figure it out or not. I don't even know. But hey, like, we kept the core together. And again, going back to that concept of synchronicity, there's a legitimate shot at that happening and that carrying out, right? So yeah, like, it's one of them situations where I know Cleveland right now. Cleveland is feeling themselves. They were on a streak for a hot minute after acquiring James Harden. Okay, cool, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie, Cleveland would be a very tough matchup for the Raptors. I'm gonna be honest, they do have the clear-cut advantage over us, but don't be surprised if we face them and beat them. Like, don't be totally surprised. If James Harden if James Harden has one more choke job in him, yo, the Cavs are looking like mincemeat out there, bro. Like, so we'll see. Like, we'll see how that goes. But me personally, I think, I'm just happy to see, like, what we've been able to do. honorable mention to the newest Raptor, Trayce Jackson-Davis. I believe that Bobby Webster is doing the Raptors a solid service in acquiring Trayce Jackson-Davis. Bobby Webster is a huge believer in not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. He's a huge believer in not putting a lien or a second mortgage on the house, or just not selling the farm just to make a quick profit. Not everything is about like liquidating what we already have or core tenets of what we already have to get something new and shiny. And I think there was clear direction and clear strategy that Webster and his team were willing to put to work. I applaud them for exploring all of the options. Their names came up in the talks, and I'll inundate a little bit of conspiracy. Me personally, I think like a lot of trades in general, a lot of it is connection based. Like the NBA is a fraternity to a certain degree, right? And the Raptors, being an incumbent, or I shouldn't say incumbent because we've been around for so many years, but basically we're like the second youngest franchise, right? So we're not really in the fraternity in the fullest sense of the word, right? So, we're not just going to get people off a connection, we're not going to get people because, like idiot boy for the Dallas Mavericks, Nico Harrison knows Rob Pelinka. All right. So like, yo fam, like basically what I'm saying is in order for us to get people, like we gotta be calculating, we gotta be shrewd, and we gotta find those unheralded guys, like the people that nobody else are looking at or is looking at, but need that opportunity. But with that being said, I'm glad, I'm grateful, and I'm blessed, and I'm thankful to be here with you again, to chop up some game on the latest and hopefully the greatest episode of the It's a Raptors Ting podcast. At least greatest until the greatest until now. You get what I'm saying, right? But nonetheless, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time to chop up some game with you. I appreciate being able to have these conversations. I'm looking more and more to have that monthly schedule. An episode released in January. Hopefully I can get this one out before the end of February. Happy Black History Month. I'll just put that out there as well. But also if you don't celebrate Black History Month, it is what it is. Either way, we black over here every night and every day. So yeah, that's just what it is. Nonetheless, shortest month of the year. Cough cough, no shade, but I see the play. Also it's in the dead of winter too. I don't know. But anyways, that's a whole nother topic. The point I'm really trying to get at here, though, realistically, is thank you for coming through and chopping up some game about some Raptors basketball, some broader NBA topics, and please comment, and subscribe to the Six Boroughs Basketball Network. And that's it for today's episode of It's a Raptors Ting. So saying it's a Raptors Ting, eh?